I'm fine, thank you. The pleasure
This is
is
mine.
mine. Sir, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. The pleasure is mine.
Welcome to ELBC. Again, I'd like to say congratulations. You want to remind us about the huge significance the Ministry of Commerce and Industry plays in the governance process of our country, as per the act that created our ministry.
I think we tend to underestimate the role of the Ministry of Commerce. Sometimes we're relegated to rice and cement.
Mhm.
But I took this I took this position coming from the business background, being an entrepreneur, because I understand firsthand how the Ministry of Commerce, the role the Ministry of Commerce can play in stimulating economic growth.
Mm.
In every country at any point of its existence, the conditions you find yourself, the point the country is at, determines the kind of development agenda it has. In our case, if we are to stimulate any kind of sustainable economic growth, it rests in how we exploit our resources and how we trade our resources.
Mm.
And that falls directly under the domain of the Ministry of Commerce. Uh, Food security, to an extent, falls greatly under the responsibility of the Ministry of Commerce. Empowering our people to take charge of the economy rests at the Ministry of Commerce. In my effort to restructure the Ministry of Commerce, I've been looking at the structures of various successful countries,
Mm.
the structure of their Ministry of Commerce or Trade or Industry. And believe you me, you'll find, for example, in the United States of America, even though that's a long shot from where we are, you have economic development under the Ministry of Commerce. You have census under the Ministry of Commerce. You have minority development under the Ministry of Commerce. Because in their foresight and their experience, they
Mm.
know the role that trade and economics play in developing a country's economy.
Mm. I mean, just telling us, I mean, the kind of huge significance that the Ministry of Commerce play. But you knew that, and given the challenges that we already have as a country, weren't you able to? I mean, didn't you come to navigate through the challenges?
Well, I mean, I did not underestimate the challenges. Again, I have experienced it firsthand, so I
Mm.
know there are challenges, and a lot of these challenges are can be overcome with proper leadership. And I'm glad. Again, I did not have to be minister of commerce. My businesses were doing fine. It had the opportunity of growing, but because of the kind of leadership that I saw in President Boakai, compels me to be part of this change and lend my experience to make the change that we want.
Mm.
So I think we can overcome it. I think it's going to be gradual if it is and sustained if we plan well. You know, I try to avoid the press, especially when you don't have tangible results or you don't have a plan. The
Mm.
last 4 months in office, we've been trying to restructure the ministry. We've been trying to, look at what we inherited, reintegrating the global trading system in terms of rebuilding relationships. But most importantly, to understand what we inherited, to restructure the ministry in a way that it brings credibility back to the institution, and we have the capacity to fulfill our mandate.
Okay, let's begin with the most recent rice reductions and market sustainability. Can you provide an overview of the recent price reductions of steroid, flour, and eggs, all these commodities?
So that is just a start. Our agenda is to support local industries. Hopefully, not only support local industry, but make sure that Liberians play a crucial part and are very, very involved in the industrial sector.
Mm.
So when we took over, knowing and understanding the importance of stimulating domestic growth and the domestic industrial sector, we reached out to all the companies, providing our support, trying to understand their constraints. And in this, we also got them to understand that they, as local manufacturers, also have responsibilities to do certain things. So we've pushed them and negotiated with them to do about three major things. One, ensure that they institute a vertical structure that incorporates Liberian entrepreneurs to be the distributors, to be the provider of services. Even the large foreign companies, we make sure that we are encouraging them to adapt that format where Liberians be the distributor. Reinforce the concept that Liberians should be the retailers. If you're a wholesaler, if you're a manufacturer, take Liberians a notch up, not only to be way down on the chain, on that chain of your product, but also to provide those services, the essential services and supplies that you need. We also are encouraging them to implement a very aggressive corporate social responsibility, not just free of charge, but in a commercial way. For example, Simeco and Seti Brothers have agreed to establish, again, under that vertical structure, a distribution mechanism where Liberians can be given credit facilities to be distributors for their products. Simeco has agreed to build a training center. They call it Cement Training Center, where our disadvantaged youth will go through an exhaustive rehabilitation process. First, after that rehabilitation process sponsored by Simeco, they will be empowered to be sellers and distributors of cement and producers of bricks, blocks, and various cement products. Seti Brother has agreed to build a rehabilitation center for the youth. So, in our engagements with our partners, whether foreign or domestic, we're encouraging these other aspects of doing business in Liberia.
Okay, but let's look at the prices of these commodities, steel, flour, and eggs that are earlier on talked about.
This is just a step. Again, in that process, the third thing was to reduce prices. Many of these businesses, especially the large producers, will actually not be able to compete with some of the foreign suppliers of goods and services. Even steel rod, flour. Many of the other countries that produce steel and flour and sugar and other commodities have incentives and subsidies that we can compete with. And the local producers expect us to support them. And we are saying, yes, we'll support you to the fullest as much as we can. We'll provide the fiscal and non-fiscal incentives. But you also try as much as possible to reduce the cost of these commodities on the market. Some people might argue that maybe 25 cents or 70 cents or 10 cents because the reduction in the steel was varied based on sizes. Might not be large. It is for the ordinary people. And same thing with flour. And we're extending this to every other commodity that's produced here. You will see shortly we'll come down with a reduction in price for example, nails, for zinc products.
But are they Liberian-owned producers?
Some are Liberian-owned producers. Now, there are two sides to this. So we're talking about reducing prices.
Yeah.
But again, our agenda is to ensure too that Liberians get into value addition, into production. I think perhaps you had such a question that we would discuss. But yes, some are Liberian-owned producers. Eggs are Liberian-owned. Many Liberian farmers are doing chicken and egg products. Flour, you have Liberian.
But they're not on a large scale.
Well, it is our responsibility to boost them up. These are capital-intensive investments. So I wouldn't say on a very large scale, but you have several Liberians that are involved in poultry. With the flour mill, you have Elias Celebi, who owns, it's a Liberian, who was the first to, in post-war era, to manufacture flour. So it is a Liberian-owned company. Yes, the other ones are foreign-owned too.
Yep. I mean, we'll talk about the criticism of these price reductions, but let's look at the sustainability of them. In your effort to reduce the prices and encourage more Liberian businesses, did you put into perspective and mechanism how you sustain these prices?
If you want to open the market, prices should be based on market forces. There are a lot of exogenous issues, circumstances that impact the cost of business in Liberia or the cost of any commodity, including rice. Let's look at flour that we reduce. We're not growing wheat. We're importing wheat. So if the wheat prices on the global market increases significantly, it will definitely impact the cost of flour on our local market. If there are circumstances where
Because there is no guarantee that you can sustain this.
there's no guarantee. There's no guarantee. But one thing I can assure you, it is a clear agenda at the Ministry of Commerce to make sure that as much as possible we reduce the cost of doing business.
But that's the risks associated with that.
Well, this is an open market. We're trying to create a competitive market. There are things we can control. I'm not going to lie to you here and tell you I can influence the price of commodities out there. I can't. What I can do is to create an environment where the businesses, these investors, these companies, I can reduce their cost of doing business, which transfers to the ordinary people, and create an environment where they are willing and comfortable. They feel very comfortable with the credibility of the government and the Ministry of Commerce to reduce prices when there is a need to do so. Now, if factors persist that necessitates us increasing the price, we'll also work with them to do so. But they should understand too, it's a volatile environment, and if it goes down, we'll also reduce the price at that time.
But there is a credibility and trust between the businesses, whether Liberian owned or foreigners, and the government. Has the government been able to ensure that these business people also believe in its credibility?
Oh, I think they do. They do believe in the credibility of the President Boakai, and they do have confidence in my capacity as Minister of Commerce, or as they won't come to the table. We're not forcing them to do anything. We're discussing with them. We're creating a very open dialogue with them, and you can see they're willing to do certain things with the understanding that with the understanding of where we come from. We have to reduce the cost of doing business. This week and next week, I'm having meetings with the supermarket owners. I believe the prices in supermarkets are outrageous. Yes, there are factors that are impacting it, but again, we'll get to the table, go on the table with them, and make sure that they reduce prices in the supermarkets to an extent.
What do they tell you when you meet them? What are the issues?
Well, they lay out some genuine issues. Business people are there to make profit. We'll understand that one way or another they want to make profit. I also understand that there are factors out there that impact prices. There are factors in here. If I can reduce the cost of doing business, expedite the process like we are doing. You go to the Ministry of Commerce now to register your business, you will get it done in 3 to 7 days. We're automating.
Is it digitized or what?
Now, we're automating and digitizing business registration. We source funding from the World Bank. It's in process, and you'll be able to do it on your phone. Even the IPD process that takes so long, you have to come here, go to the Ministry of Commerce, spend days, take people here and there, spend money unnecessarily to remove that human aspect that exacerbates corruption. We're digitizing the process. You can be right in your office and apply for your IPD. So we're doing a lot of things at the Ministry of Commerce to create a very, very predictable and economical process of doing business.
Minister, let's talk something very contagious. It's about rice.
Yes.
Every commerce minister that I know that have come to the position, or president by extension, they contend with rice importers. Why is that?
Well, because we haven't really addressed the issue of rice, and we keep on thinking about it as a rice issue. How I look at it, and how the president looks at this is about food security. We need to think beyond just rice. We need to develop a strategy, a very, very comprehensive strategy and realistic strategy on food security. And that involves empowering Liberians to be part of the importation of rice, which we are doing, making sure that gradually we increase the local production of rice.
It is a contradiction of the government's plan. The government wants to reduce the importation of rice. Now, you're encouraging Liberians to get involved into the importation of rice. Why is that?
Well, because as it is, you have 6 importers and 5 of them are foreign owned. So in this agenda of making sure that Liberians are not just spectators, they are really involved in doing business, really in charge of the economy, a product as sensitive, a commodity as sensitive as rice, it's only critical, it's only essential that Liberians partake in this. So, but importation is not the agenda. That's what I'm saying. It's not about It's not just about importation, it's not about rice, it's about food security.
Mm.
So concomitant to make sure that Liberians become importers also, we have to make sure that we boost local production. Not only of rice, we have to boost local production of cassava, flour, other food items. We also have to sensitize our people. The president has a clear agenda. He set up a committee on rice. It's not just rice; it's food security that is looking at how we can, we can push this agenda of food security. Looking at what other commodities we should prioritize in our national development agenda. I can tell you, cassava is one of them. Cassava, you have more than 200 uses of cassava. We are not even exploiting 10% of it. Okay. We're looking also at corn. We're looking at several other commodities to ensure that we have food security. One of the president's agenda is even school.
On that particular good because they need to get profit. How do you address that?
So a lot of their concerns are genuine. There are several costs associated externally, and there are costs internally that we can control, and we're trying to control. The government doesn't want to strangulate them. The president's agenda, or when the president came out that there will be no increase in price, he did not say it as a definite measure. It's because he wanted to explore all opportunities to see if we can get rice cheaper. If all the prices, all the costs associated with bringing rice are genuine, and if there are things that we can do as a government internally, whether it's APM charges, whether it's export charges, whether taxes, he wanted to understand all the variables to make sure that we don't just blanketly increase the price of rice. Now, as Minister of Commerce, my institution has done all the research they can. It is still the president's responsibility to fight for the interests of his people, to make sure there are check and balances, to make sure that even I as minister, I'm doing the right thing. So the president plans to re-engage. We have not stopped engaging the rice importers. I have met them since that rice price issue came up. I've met them over 4 times. Met them with other stakeholders. We've met them with Chamber of Commerce, the Liberia Business Association, various other agencies of government. In that process, we've engaged, we've called APM Terminal to meeting, we've called CTN, not CDM, METEC, we've called NPA to meet, all the stakeholders that impact the cost of rice. We've called in the Truckers Association, the Stevie Dewars. So we have tried to make sure that indeed there are real costs that impact the cost of doing business for the rice importers. That their request to carry price up will be reasonable. Now we believe that we'll go back on the table. I just came from Geneva, and during that mission, I was able to engage several other countries that produce rice. We're able to engage the WTO on this rice issue, and the issues are genuine. There are a lot of things impacting rice price. But my main concern here, again, going back to this, let's look at the dimension. It's not only about rice, it's about food security. And we also need to understand that that we also don't want the rice importers to take advantage of the situation to carry price up more than they should. So we are in the process, and I can show you we're building that relationship. We have a relationship with the rice importers.
I find it very complicating for me, because these importers have leverage. They have leverage for the fact that our import rate is high. We import a lot of rice. We haven't reached to the point where we can plant. We can have this mass production of locally produced rice, and like I said, I was speaking with your colleague, the agriculture minister, last time. We can only say that we've done well in agriculture and rice production if we have the rice as the imported rice in the stores. At what point in time will we reach that point?
I can assure you it'll be done within this administration. There's a concerted effort with Ministry of Commerce, with Cabinet, with the Minister of Agriculture to make sure we boost local production. It's a mandate from the president. It's a focus that has been placed by the president. So I am very confident during this administration you will see that. One of my negotiations with the rice importers in all this scheme, as I told you, there's a corporate social responsibility we're also pushing. They are investing initially $200,000 contributed to the industrial division of the Ministry of Commerce to address local production. And what we are going to do with this, based on our discussions with stakeholders, one of the issues is preparing rice, packaging local rice in a healthy way, packaged properly, cleaned properly, without sand, for local market. So we are going to use these funds to do a storage facility at the industrial park that will be used to aggregate rice produced in Liberia, clean them and package them properly. And here's the thing, that facility also addresses one issue in this conundrum of food security, and that is the issue of storage.
Yeah,
that is also the issue of a buffer stock. If you notice, we don't have a buffer stock system in Liberia. So whensoever there's volatility in price, there will always be a shortage unless you go and negotiate with the rice importers. So one of the agenda of this administration is to ensure that within the next 3 months, we have a system in place that will have a buffer stock that is always available. If prices go up on the international market, or if there's shortage within the importation, you will have at least 3 months supply of rice sitting down for emergency. That warehouse facility that we're doing at the industrial park will address the storage of the buffer stock.
So when will that be completed?
Well, we're now soliciting invoice quotations for the structure, the prefab structure, and once we clear them through going through the proper processes, we'll proceed with the procurement.
Rice, and the reason why I'm sticking with rice is because it is a political commodity. Are we at risk, given that our food security is in the hands of foreigners?
Well, we don't want to say in the hands of foreigners only. Yes, there's an issue there, but It's not so much of being in the hand of foreigners. We are at risk because we're not producing. If we reach a point, it will be very comfortable. We reach a point that at least 25 to 30% of our consumption is produced locally, and gradually we can increase, and that's the strategy we have. So, with even with our negotiations with the rice importers, we hope that at some point, gradually, we increase local production to the point where we fade out. You're not going to fade out importation
Completely.
completely, but we'll have variety on the market. We have opened the market. Since I have become Minister of Commerce, I've granted 9 permits for rice, none of them to foreign importers. Not that I'm trying to be segregative, but we're trying to empower, test the market to see if Liberians are capable, or
Are
if
they coming forward?
yes, they are. Whether they are capable of bringing rice competitive prices or not, that's another thing. Whether they can bring the volume to sustain the market, that's another thing. But they are coming up, and we are not denying anyone once you can meet basic requirement, because you have to have the storage, you have to have the capacity to bring certain amount, and you have to bring quality.
Let's look at local business support and regulatory environment in your effort to increase Liberian-owned businesses to flourish and all that. What is the ministry doing to enhance that?
So, for example, we're now only looking at the middle and top levels. A month ago, we launched the informal sector business registration process, where free of charge we will register businesses in the formal sector, whether you're a shoe shine boy, wheelbarrow boy, or a market lady selling pepper. We'll formalize you, register you free of charge. We're also working with LRA to provide incentives in terms of tax breaks for people operating within that sector, Liberian businesses operating in that sector. This is a key effort to make sure that you're positioned for loans, for benefits from the government. You have to be formalized. We're also working with banks to provide specialized financing options for people within that bracket. We have negotiated, in fact, we signed, and probably by next week it will be released to the central bank through the World Bank, funding a loan mechanism for small and medium enterprises. We're kicking it off with $3 million, with another set of $3 million to be disbursed within about 3 months. Those are all geared towards supporting Liberian businesses. We have revitalized our small business department. We have a very young and aggressive Deputy Minister for Small Business, and we'll start providing training for small businesses. Teaching you basic accounting, basic banking services, all geared towards empowering you and making you more sustainable.
Okay.
The processes at the Ministry of Commerce generally has been expedited. We're working hard to eliminate a lot of the corruption that were inherent in the ministry, a lot of the bureaucratic bottlenecks that were there. I tell people, I walk myself into the customer service and tell them, once you come here, do not make any payments for services. We are paid to provide those services to you.
And with that said, for the next 5 years, what is the ministry's strategic plan or vision?
So we are developing our strategic plan, by the way. I mean, again, I don't want to get government's continuity. I don't want to get into how bad the ministry was when we inherited, but even the basic policies, trade policy, industrial policy, SME policy, have not been reviewed for the past 6 years. So we're in the process of revising and revising all those policies to make sure that they address our current circumstances and the president's agenda.
Okay, if you just joined us, you're listening to the Super Morning Show. The Minister of Commerce is here, Minister Amin Modad. Like you said, you were in Geneva for the World Intellectual Property Organization. Is that the convention?
Yes.
Tell us about the significance of that trip.
Well, it was very important. The trip was not only to meet at WIPO, but wanted to use this opportunity to meet all our foreign counterparts in terms of trade. So we met with WIPO, we met with the EIF program, the Enhanced Integrated Framework Program. We met with the heads of these institutions. We have met with the head, Dr. Ngozi, the head of the WTO. We also used the opportunity to meet with countries that produce rice. I met with Cambodia, the head of the delegation to the WTO. I met with China. And there are prospects there for cheaper variety of rice. We're about to sign an MOU based on the variety. They are sending us samples from Cambodia of the various rice they produce, and to see if it's something that the market will accept. And we'll sign an MOU for supply. We use that opportunity to regulate our membership. Our membership to a lot of these organizations. We inherited again, not going back, not always pounding on what we inherited. For example, we are delegating our financial obligations to the WTO and to the EIF.
Have you paid out those debts
During my administration, in the last 3 months, we've been able to pay all those debts.
in the tune of
Uh, in the tune of about $80,000. Okay.
to WAPO, for example, WTO?
No, we're not owing WAPO, we're owing WTO. We're owing EIF, the EIF program. We went and misused the people funds. So we pay the EIF 55,000. We pay the WTO our annual membership. I think about 33,000.
Why is it important to be in good financial standing with these bilateral and multilateral organizations?
The World Trade Organization governs and manages global trade, and believe you me, there are a lot of benefits we get from the WTO. Our membership due is $33,000, but in terms of training and direct support, annually we get more than $1 million, $2 million. If we are very aggressive, we even get close to $10 million. When I was at the Ministry of Commerce, 2000 and 2007, 2006 to 2010, we got annually close to $3 million in support from the WTO and its institutions. So there are a lot of support we can get from the WTO. It's also important that you're actively involved, not just as bystander, you're actively involved in the process of global, trade rules. WTO sets the rule for global trade. It's important that you're actively involved not just sitting down, but in formulation of those rules, being part of those rules, setting up your agenda, in-country agenda, to be in line with those rules. And also, it's important that you articulate your concerns. Instead of just being given template solutions, we are able at the table of the WTO to articulate our challenges and articulate our trade policies, even if at some point it is not in line with the WTO rules. But we have to be very active in letting the WTO know why we're implementing such rules.
Minister, we'll come to industrial development and technical capacity, but let's talk standardization. I guess you're following the mass production of alcoholic beverages, and it is being reported that some of these alcoholic beverages are not well distilled. And as a result, there are health complications. I was speaking with one of the doctors from one of the hospitals, and he was telling me that it's no more diabetes, it's no more malaria, but it's about kidney and liver. Is the ministry looking in that direction to ensure that these companies producing these alcoholic beverages well distill them?
Oh yes, not only well distilled, and that they are using safe ingredients. Over the last 3 months, we find Coca-Cola factory, we find Tiba, we find
over the last what?
Over the last 3 months.
3 months.
We visited all of these food manufacturing. We started with the food manufacturing plants, and we find them for any irregularity, from expired goods, from expired ingredients to improper packaging. We've given them fines. We've commenced inspecting the alcoholic places. We've already find some of them. I don't want to call all the names.
Why that close them down?
Well, I mean, it's not only about closing them down. There should be a process. We have been derelict in our responsibility of inspecting and making sure that they meet certain standards. Okay, there's a new government. We're not in the business of, closing businesses down or making it hard for businesses to operate. Now, the proper procedure is, if you identify some of these issues, you find them, you give them warning, you continue to inspect them 1, 2, 3 times. If they are conscientiously not making changes, yes, we have the right and responsibility to close them down. So In all my discussions with these companies that we have been inspecting, I tell them I'm not going to joke about it. We're not joking about it. If you don't correct some of these issues that we have identified within the next month or so, we'll shut you down. Okay, so there is a process. I can guarantee you our inspectorate is very aggressive nowadays. We're working hard to develop the standard facility at the Library Standard Lab, which has been enhanced to the standard authority. And we will not take the safety of our people lightly.
How often do you inspect these companies?
So we try to make it more predictable. In the past, people do random inspection. Almost every day, our inspectors are out there. This borderline is harassment also. So we are in the process. We have re-uniformed all our inspectors, our inspectorate. We are conducting training for our inspectorates. We have a dynamic inspector, and we're making it more predictable in a way that we will schedule inspection. All factories should know, and for all factories and major importers, especially frozen food and food stuff, we inspect them monthly. They should expect us to inspect them monthly. And during those monthly inspection, we will be joined with EPA and other institutions because we don't want to. I come from the private sector. It's very demeaning and very harassing when you have multiple institutions coming almost every day to business centers. Okay, we want to create a more credible and predictable environment. So we'll do our inspections every month. And for new businesses, again, we just rolled out 3 new regulations. If you have been monitoring, we have rolled out administrative regulation for the importation of electronics. I'll tell you why. We have done so for frozen food and rice. So while we're opening the market to the public, to anyone who wants to do business, we're not restricting it, but you must meet certain requirements. For electronics, our people are complaining about substandard electronic products. You buy products from electronics from the stores, the very next day they get destroyed. There's no recourse. So this new regulation dictates that one, every importer of electronics must have a repair shop manned and managed by a Liberian technician. You must provide warranties for your products, free warranty for a period, for example, 3 months warranty, that anyone who buys your product can bring it back. And you must provide additional warranty that someone can buy. If someone wants to protect the product for 1 year, they might be able to buy some additional warranty. We're doing so to make sure that Liberians get the value of their dollar and commodities that are on the market meet standard. Frozen food, we're opening the market. People don't understand. I'm learning. I told the president earlier I've gotten 2 PhDs in the last 3 months on the business environment here. It's so contentious. People fight for the importation rights for chicken feet because we consume about 50 containers of chicken feet per month. So what we're trying to do is to say, while we are opening the market, we must make sure that it is not flooded with substandard. There's something called anti-dumping in WTO, where countries send products that are worthless, expired, not only expired, substandard. So before you import frozen food, while we're opening market to it, you must show that you have proper cold storage, proper facility, proper trucking and transportation, and you have the capital. I have sent my team has sent back more than 10 containers that come through, not even containers, trucks that come through Freetown, Ivory Coast, of frozen food that's supposed to be stored in frozen containers or reefers that are just in the back of trucks. We've shut down, and there's another matter, we've shut down a factory producing, not related to frozen food, and the gateways goes to electronic and electrical supplies.
Yeah.
This new ordinance. We shut down a company that was producing wire here. Do you hear about fires as much as you were hearing before? No, we don't. Because a lot of fire was occurring because there was a factory in Duazon producing wires in Liberia. So substandard, we've taken it to Ghana. We tested it here, took it to Ghana, and the results was very discouraging. They were so substandard. They were not even conducive for 110 electricity, let alone the 220 that we were using here. So that's why you were having a lot of fire occurrences. So we're doing everything we can to protect our market, protect our people.
So this is to say a vigilant inspectorate of the Ministry of Commerce will safeguard the public or the citizens
in many ways. But we met a defunct inspectorate. Not one vehicle. We're just in the process of purchasing a vehicle for the Inspector General. For the inspector to be vigilant, they need to be well equipped. It is the heart of quality and standards and safety of our people.
Minister, industrial economy, is it an illusion or a reality in our context?
No, it's not. Again, it's leadership. You walk in the street, you see our brothers and sisters selling fried plantain chips, polo, biscuits that they make, cookies that they make. That's the first step to industrialization. We need now, our responsibility is to take it forward to make sure to meet the standards, to make sure that the packaging and preparation will be done properly. And that's what we're doing. A lot of the funding that we are allocating is to develop the industrial sector. I really believe that
because some criticize the industrial aspect of the Ministry of Commerce. They say it's not working.
Well, if it had been slow before, again, it has to do with leadership. The president priority they
are recommending that we scrap that out.
No, you can't. It has a lot of potential. In fact, it's key to our economic development. If we have to develop this economy in a sustainable way, our comparative advantage lies in our natural resources. We need to begin adding value to our timber. We need to begin adding value to our food crops. We need to begin packaging properly for domestic and consumption and export. You can't do that without developing an industrial sector. We are signatories to a lot of accords, WTO Accord, the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, the CET, the regional agreement in ECOWAS. Our markets are flooded with products from Ghana, Nigeria, Cameroon, South Africa. But in the spirit of reciprocity, we are not benefiting from those agreements because we are not producing anything. Even our season, the onga season coming from Nigeria and Ghana. So we have, in the spirit of developing a vibrant and sustainable economy, we need to focus on import substitution, gradually develop our capacity to produce some of our basic needs. And that's what we're supporting. That's why already one of the first things we did when we took over the Ministry of Commerce was to visit the industrial park. 90% of the companies, the industries there are foreign owned. So we've begun the process of reclaiming some of the land at the industrial park to dedicate those lots to Liberian enterprises. Even if we have to find the funding to invest and build the warehouses, build the facilities, and rent out at reasonable prices to Liberian enterprises or Liberian companies that want to improve their production, their value addition capacity, we will do so. But we must develop our industrial sector to address sustainable economic growth.
I'm just,
and by the way, it plays into this issue of food security. Food security rests on industries.
But Minister, maybe the government is not doing enough to encourage these companies. Say, for example, onga that you made reference to from Nigeria, Ghana. Has the government been able to tell these people, come and establish a branch here and produce here? Or is it the matter of getting more revenue from importation?
No, the government has not been doing well, but this administration is doing well in terms of leaning towards developing the industrial sector. No, we don't want to we'll open the market, we'll open the economy, we'll lend the credibility that will encourage foreign direct investment. But our agenda, the agenda of President Parker, is to make sure that Liberians produce these things themselves. We're working on financing packages that will provide funding for Liberians to get into value addition. Some of these companies don't require heavy, large investments. For the private sector, have invested in factories.
So you can tell me, say you need a huge equipment to produce onga.
You don't. But again, it has to do with the agenda of the government. It has to do with championing that industrial agenda. It has to do with the role the Ministry of Commerce plays in sensitizing the public, in guiding our entrepreneurs towards value addition. That's what we're doing.
Okay, let's try to take calls, Minister. You're listening to the Super Morning Show this morning. Minister Amin Modad is our guest. You can call us on 0770581886. 0770581886. Just one other thought, Minister. There hasn't been a correlation between the reduction of the prices of gasoline or fuel and that of the transportation fare? What's happening there?
So the Minister of Transport and I have already started a discussion. They are in the process of evaluating, doing an analysis. I expect it. In fact, just Friday here met on this. So I expect within the next couple of days, it's just that the 26th celebration, we'll have an analysis from them because we've brought this up with them, from them on how we can on a pricing structure so that the Ministry of Commerce can enforce it. Very soon you will see that.
Is it an enforcement order from the Ministry of Commerce or Transport?
The Ministry of Commerce is responsible for pricing. Just how we are responsible for petroleum pricing, we do it in conjunction with the LPRC. It's the same with pricing that has to do with other agencies. So they are doing the analysis as the sector agency, and when they submit this with us, our price analysis team will also work with them, verify it, and if where the adjustment is needed, we do it and release those prices.
Well, as how soon? Anyway,
I can assure you we are not derelict on our responsibilities. A lot of the things that a lot of the concerns that the public has, a lot of the concerns that are evolving, we are ahead of it. We are circumspecting those things and making sure that we're working on them.
Okay, let's hear from this person. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. What's the name?
My name is Moses Tuasonya. I'm calling you here from PJ.
Yeah, let's hear you.
Let me tell the comment minister. We know that our economy is basically import-driven usually, and to shift it from merchandise to manufacturing is a process. So right now we have to be focusing on short-term economic policy decisions, especially when it comes to the price of basic commodity. One of the determinants of price is taxes, tariff. I agree. So the commerce ministry should look around all the stream towards the import institution, the ATM terminal, the method, all the things the business people been complaining about. Now I want to applaud him also on the issue about this right. But we believe the cartel at that commerce is the so-called thing they call RTD. Let the forces of the market determine price, demand, supply, open the market.
Okay, thank you.
To the caller, I assure you the market is open.
Yeah, you respond to them. Just jot down the points. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, family.
Yeah, morning.
Okay, this is Lauren Baba calling you from Lumber County to be where they say this morning.
Yeah, let's hear you.
Let me just appreciate the minister in studio with all what we're experiencing. But let me ask you a question. One question, like those people that commit a crime, the office of the minister with them, think that there was tax, whether they pay or not. Then what about Monrovia, the Bible right, 3,400, then you come in for here, sometimes 4,500. So let's just take two more answers on the Bible. Thank you so much this morning.
Oh, okay. I think he's asking about how the prices vary. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Is it your busy?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, is it on the number on air or not?
Yeah, go ahead. You listen. You're following the show.
I'm Daniel calling from Jigota.
Yeah.
We see some rest in on the market now. For what there with the liberal flare only. And then, so they selling the $4,000. Then we got another one for India for 3,450. What is the actual price of a rent that is able to produce in Liberia? Or what is the real price of the rent we buy in Liberia? We really want to know because it's been conflicting.
Okay. Morning. Good morning. Good morning. Yes, sir.
Thank you so much. This is Paco calling for additional.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Good morning to my former chairman, Mr. Modad. I wanted to play my info on the partial gathering. I want my minister to present the business area. If we have to all the people trying to educate the people, I want for
And not people like people to my father, to my former father chairman. Okay. Yeah. But I filed in a person making person. And why talking about the person carry you? Very happy with it. Yeah. But I wake up and face some of the swamp again. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Good morning.
Good morning, Valerie.
Good morning. What's your name?
Thank you. My name is Steven Sengwa. I call from Bangla.
Yeah, let's hear you.
Yeah, brother, thank you for the show. At least we can get here busy now in the country. Thank you so much for the effort.
Mm-hmm.
But let me ask the minister, is there any visions or any hope that Liberia will start to export some of the major commodities to us outside so that we can get some money coming to the economy? Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. How are you doing, sir?
I'm fine. What's your name?
Well, my name is Kiroti Saki calling from Bone Kaza, Bonjama District before country.
Yeah, let's hear you from Bonjama.
I want to tell the government thank you for the level of work for this period of months that they are working. I want to tell them thank you, including the minister of interior. But I have common suggestions as a local man. The way the LDA is working towards the drugs that they are factoring, I'm requesting to the Commerce Ministry that it will turn to the makers that will be imported into this country one day to come. They have to work on that, please. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Good morning. Morning. Hello.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Is it ERBC?
This is ERBC.
Okay. Thanks for Minister Modad. My concern here, is that the salt drain they produce in our country. The salt drain is also sugar water. What you gotta do about it?
Okay.
Yeah, now one of my major.
He said they've closed down Coca-Cola Faje before.
We'll find them.
Yeah,
We'll find them. Sorry.
Also, the toothpaste when they introduce a new toothpaste on the market, it can be quality, but the foreign one that come after it can just be that kind of a way wastewater toothpaste. You put it in your mouth, just so water.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Good morning.
Good morning, Bable.
Yeah, morning. Go ahead. What's your name?
Good morning, Bable. Am I live?
Yeah, you live. Go ahead. What's your name?
Okay, this is the voice of Nukwe A. George, and I call you from Baptist Seminary.
Yep.
Let me say thank you to Minister Amin Modad, and let me say thank you for the show this morning. I do appreciate your effort. Minister Amin Modad, I have two questions, and my concern has to do with one, the improvement of small business in Liberia. You made mention of it, but I did not hear you talk mostly about it. We are here operating small business in the Uminga market, and there are some challenges that they face with small business operators. And my next challenge is towards the GMO food. GMO are the genetic modified organs. These organs are then being used on some of our chicken and that of pig.
Okay.
To be able to produce in 2 to 3 months. So how do you use your microscope to be able to identify some of these products that are coming within the country?
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. We can take this call and go back to the minister. Good morning.
Good morning, Chief. This is Adam Andrews. I call you from the Grand Bassa Highway BIA. I want to say thank you to the minister, and I listened to him carefully. And I decided to call because something drew my attention concerning the small business something. So after the bonuses, I'll be in Morovia because I establishing a farm And then by October this year, I will be claiming pepper on 20 acres of land because I realize our sisters can go Guinea and Ivory Coast for pepper. So I will come and register the business, and then I will come to the Ministry of Commerce to ask him to help me to give me some technical ideas.
Yeah, when you come there, you can initiate that discussion. Anyway, Minister, you can respond to the concerns, but just two other thoughts. Why you describe the rice issue as a cartel, and also on rice import? If any Liberian can import rice if they have the capacity, you can just respond to those concerns, please.
So, the definition of cartel is a coalition or cooperation arrangement between parties. Okay?
But it's got a very bad connotative meaning.
Well, we interpret things differently. When I use the word cartel, I use it to mean
like a group of thieves.
Not so much a group of thieves, a group of people that work in concert. Okay? The rice importers, you have 6 rice importers, only 6 rice importers. Okay? They are sourcing rice from the same country, India. Probably the same supplier. So definitely there will be some cohoot there, some collaboration there. And they are operating as a group. When they came to the government to increase price, they came as a group. So it's not in a negative sense, okay? But they have an undue influence on our economy and our security because they are the only importers. If we're producing rice, the kind of influence the rice importers have on the country, they won't have it. I'm not saying the claims are all illegitimate. They have some very legitimate claims. That's why I'm saying the agenda, why we haven't addressed food security, because we're being focused on rice only. We haven't really looked at food security and domestic empowerment in that scheme of food security, and that's what this government is trying to do. We want more players on that table. The president wants to see more Liberians on the table, and that's why we are granting anyone who wants IPD for rice. It will not cost you a dime. Once you can meet those basic requirements, I'll give you IPD. But if you don't perform, I'm not going to give it back to you. But the market is opened. So going to the questions from the callers.
Mm-hmm.
Let me address some of them. Let me bring this up quickly. So the first one, open the market, eradicate IPD. You can't. The market is opened. IPD is there as just for check and balance. Okay? Let me give you an example. Because you don't have a lot of Liberians importing frozen food, it's a sector dominated by our foreign counterparts. And because there hasn't been proper regulation or management, you have substandard goods coming in. I had to stop any IPD that I see things like lungs. People are bringing big lungs because they say the people can't afford it. But they can't afford the expensive meat parts. So we're bringing what they can afford. That's nonsense. So the IPD plays a role once it's not abused in a corruptive manner. It ensures that we understand the kind of products entering our market, that we really work towards anti-dumping, and we are able to boost revenue. For the past few months, I have stockpiles of IPDs that I said I wouldn't sign because people from the IPD, they under-declare. The electronic stores said they will take me to court. They will report me to WTO. I said, go ahead. You find someone on the IPD quoting $3 for a fan, standing fan, but they're selling it in the store $25. When you ask them to say, but that's not the responsibility of the Ministry of Commerce, it's the responsibility of LRA. I said, no, the buck starts at the Ministry of Commerce. Because if you are saying you're bringing in something for $3 and I want to see how much you're selling, what's your markup? And mind you, I'm saying this publicly because I want them to hear it. I have sent my inspectors undercover and they have taken invoices from almost all the electronic stores. So we know how much you are selling your goods. And that's why when I refuse your IPD and send it back to you, they are now correcting it because they know that I'm serious about it. It's the same thing with frozen food. So we have, I'm sorry, when the IPD plays a role, and I can assure the public we are not going to abuse it. All the companies we find have paid their fines because even though we did not go there to close them, but they knew and we let them know that if you don't pay a fine and correct those actions that we identify and we are relating to you, we'll close you down. So they have paid their fines. I can reassure them. Now, one of the things in the rice business that hasn't been done before, and we are working on it, it's sensitive. We have been focused on rice importers. They're setting the prices for rice importers. But the real culprits in the distortion of prices are the retailers. And that's the hardest to manage because we haven't been focused on it. We tell the rice importers, we give them a ceiling. Okay? Don't sell above 17. But then when it leaves the importers, right in Clarendon, you see someone selling it after buying it for 16.75, selling it for 18. When it gets, but we agree now. There are other things that we can't deny. There are costs because of the road conditions, because of the rains, because of electricity, because of proper storage. Cost varies from point to point. Okay, so what we are doing now, since we took over, it doesn't happen overnight. We are doing a very, very comprehensive analysis of the costs, for example, to take a bag of rice from here to Plibo, to take a bag of rice from Monrovia to Ganta, to Banga, to Buchanan. And with those analysis, we will be able to, just as much as we're establishing ceiling prices for the importers, we'll also be able to regulate prices, the retail prices. It's a difficult process. We also have to capacitate our inspectors because the only way to enforce this and to make sure that it's not being done is to have sufficient well-trained inspectors out there that are not going to
incentivize before they
incentivize. Each inspector at the Ministry of Commerce is making $180 or $280. That's not incentive enough to be very diligent. That's why we have a corrupt system. I'll be the first to admit it. We have a corrupt system. So we're working to provide those incentives, to provide the tools for our inspectors to be able to inspect. Going into another thing, we've already gotten the numbers, we're setting up a consumer hotline. Those will be released tomorrow or day after tomorrow. Where consumers, the public can call those hotlines 24 hours and report issues from prices to damaged goods, substandard goods, expired goods, to even report of members of the inspectorate for malfeasance or for harassment. So we're making that available. Again, the discrepancy between the wholesale price of rice and the retail price is there, and we're tackling it. 2 weeks ago, my inspector general was out there with his team, very exhaustive, and those shops that he found selling rice excessively, for example, in Monrovia, he stood there and sold them at a certain price and reimbursed them, the stores, to let them know, that they have to stick to that price. So going to the next question, inspection of stores and supermarkets of expired goods, we are doing that, and we are not going to publish names totally, but I can assure the people we are focused on it. We're inspecting every.
When you name and shame, you'll deter.
Well, yes. If the people we give the fine to initially, if it reoccurs, we'll name and shame and shut them down. Okay, we'll get to there. We'll get there. But we are very actively inspecting the various supermarkets, various stores, and centers, especially for food products. It goes to the standard lab. We are working with our partners. This week we had meetings with UNIDO and other agencies to get funding. We're looking at public-private business arrangements where we can expand the lab to even inspect food products at the port before they enter into the country. Yeah, Semolina and several other diseases that are spread with frozen food, especially coming from certain destinations, and we're working on that. Yes, our trade balance is out of whack, and that's not only today. We inherited that; it has been almost perpetuated for the past 50 or so years. We import more than we export. Again, it goes to your question you asked earlier about whether we should just forget about industry. No, we can't.
Yeah. Minister. Yeah, you can just conclude, but I just wanted to know if we have enough so that shortage is not anytime soon.
Enough what?
Rice.
Yes, we do have enough rice.
Okay. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, Minister.
The pleasure is mine. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, he's Commerce Minister Amin Modad. He's been my guest on the Super Morning Show. My name is Vafli Kamara. You can join me tomorrow for another presentation. Bye-bye.